Welcome back to the Pro Sports Podcasters on YouTube. My name's Ron. Most of you know me as Kobe. And today I want to go over my top 5 Sack Challenge bargains on the NFL all-day marketplace. And the reason I want to get into this, and it's because I've been touting the defensive side of the ball from the very beginning, but it's because the defensive players, the defensive moments on NFL all day are still being seriously overlooked by the majority of the community. Everyone is stacking these either team moments or offensive star moments, because some of them are just mediocre when it comes right down to it. But they're driving the values up on these offensive players, and it's just not worth it when you look at what's available on the defensive side of the ball. And when the season begins, you got to expect there to be challenges. And you know there's going to be catch challenges. You know there's going to be rush challenges. You know there's going to be touchdown challenges. But in the same vein, you know there's going to be sack challenges, and you know there's going to be interception challenges, and maybe they'll go as far as tackle challenges, but you never know, because I don't know how well versed the Dapper Labs team is when it comes to critical stats in NFL football. I think they're going to go by what the diva, stats are, what gets all the hype on the NFL, community, and that's sacks, interceptions, and touchdowns. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Yards, number of catches, that can be a thing, but touchdowns, interceptions, sacks, that's probably the big 3, and 2 of which are defensive players. And I wanted to begin with sacks because the defensive ends, the defensive linemen, the guys that just hammer these diva quarterbacks are the guys that get the hype when it comes right down to it. They're the players on the defensive side of the ball that most people know. Sure, a lot of cornerbacks, like the shutdown corners, get, a fair amount of press, but they don't get the same they don't have the same highlight reel that the sack specialists have. It's nice to get the occasional interception. Some of them look real pretty when it comes right down to it and can make a highlight of the night, but every week you're going to see quarterbacks just eating the turf from these sack specialists. So they're going to get a lot of hype. And because of that, I wanted to highlight them. And there are 5 in my list that I think you need to have in your collection. Some you may want to have multiple, so when the time comes, you can sell them at a significant profit when the challenge presents itself next season. I'm going to begin with the best deal on the list, and that's Trey Hendrickson. And I think one of the reasons why Trey Hendrickson gets overlooked is because since his move to Cincinnati, he's become a new player, right? He's been completely revitalized. And a lot of that is the defensive scheme they run really opens them up to a lot of one-on-ones on the outside, of which he's good enough to beat and get to the quarterback. So last season was his best season as a sack artist in the NFL, and Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl. So he had a great season, right? Fantastic season. He's one of the top 5 guys, period, in sack stats for 2021. Yet he's going for $5 on the marketplace. $5. He's basically bottomed out. And that's his debut moment. So not only do you get a sack specialist who's perfect for challenges in the future, but you also get his debut moment at a significant discount. You need to have him in your collection. If you don't, go get him right now. Go get him right now. I've got more than one, right? Because he's that good. He's in a great situation. When you got a quarterback like Joe Burrow, you're going to have a lot of leads in games. And that opens up those players to just tee off on quarterbacks and not have to worry about too many runs being called because they're chasing the score. So you got to have Trey Hendrickson, 100%, especially at $5. Next, there's a couple of players that are, they're Super Bowl champions from last season. And that's Aaron Donald and Von Miller. Now, Von Miller is no longer an LA Ram, but I actually think he's in a better situation in Buffalo. I really do, right? First of all, he's facing very young, practically rookie quarterbacks. He's got to deal with Zach Wilson. He's going to sack him a bunch of times. Mac Jones. I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks a tooth out. And Tua Tagovailoa, who's maybe the most elusive of the 3, but he's not on the greatest team with the greatest offensive line, so he's going to get hammered too. So I really like Von Miller's chances, and it's not like he's got a downgrade of position players around him. You've still got Ed Oliver in the middle, who's going to have a much better season now that Von Miller's on the outside. And you've got Gregory Rousseau, who can actually maybe put up some real stats because Von Miller's there and he won't face as many double teams. So I really liked his move to Buffalo on maybe the best defense in football, especially with him as an addition. You got to love Von Miller here. And you're not going to get his debut for a discount because it's like a legendary. But what you will get with Von Miller is you can get his basic common, which is $9, $9 for Von Miller, right? 2-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP Von Miller. They won last season, so you also get the championship badge on that moment. It's not a badgeless moment, right? It's got the Super Bowl championship badge. So for $9, have a few of them. I do. Right? I'm not going to go there into the season with just one. No way. 100%. He's going to factor into sack challenges. So, Von Miller's on my list. Then I mentioned Aaron Donald, who, by some people's account, including Nee Wallace Bruce, who's on our podcast, see him as the best player in football. The single best player in football. I'm not saying best defensive player. Best player. Period. Has the greatest effect on the game. Because he's so dominant. He's such a physical freak that even attacking through the middle against multiple double teams, he can get to the quarterback and just cause havoc. And year in, year out, he's a top 10 sack leader. Expect that again next season. So to think he's not going to factor in, ridiculous. Obviously he is. Now, he's not the cheapest moment on this list, but he's a bargain when you look at what you get. Aaron Donald's debut is also his make the stop moment. So you get a subset moment and a debut moment in one. You also get the championship badge because they won the championship. And you get Aaron Donald, who's quite literally at worst, one of the top 3 players in the league. So that's a complete bargain. Compare that to some of the prices that some of the offensive stars are going for. You're not going to get the same value as you do with Aaron Donald at like $75 or $76. Insane value. Next is the only rare on my list, and that's Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett is somewhat overlooked because, one, he got drafted by the Denver Broncos onto a team that at that time had Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. Right? He wasn't going to get a lot of snaps when it came right down to it. And he showed some flashes of skill, but he just wasn't needed. It was almost a luxury for Denver to have him there. So they let him go during free agency and he signed with Tampa Bay. And since going to Tampa Bay, he's been a sack king, right? He gets to play every snap. He gets to tee off on quarterbacks. The added bonus of Brady staying for another season means Tampa Bay is going to play with a lot of leads, which frees up those defensive ends to just tee off on quarterbacks and not worry about anything else because everyone's playing catch-up when you're playing against Tampa Bay, especially in a division that's kind of in flux. They're the only team that's really solid right now. You don't know what to expect from New Orleans yet, although I do expect New Orleans to challenge them this season. I like Jameis Winston. Not everyone does, but I do. So I see that as their biggest challenge in the division. But outside of that, it's going to be a free-for-all for Brady. Not to mention the NFC in general has gotten weaker significantly. So the majority of his games are going to be against weaker opponents. Shaq Barrett is going to have himself a season. And right now, his rare is going for $41. $41. That's nothing for a rare. Absolute nothing. Debut moment. Rare. Shaq Barrett. Snatch it up. Get it while you can, because you compare him to other offensive player positions of the same ilk, and you're paying double, triple what he's at. So get Shaq Barrett. And the last on my list is, to me, the best sack specialist in the NFL, and that's TJ Watt. And TJ Watt has got 2 moments to choose for. I actually have both, but it's got a make the stop moment, which I think right now is going for $31. And it's got his debut, which is going for, I think, $28. So both of them right around $30 for TJ Watt, the best sack specialist in the NFL. And there's some worry that because Ben Roethlisberger retired, that maybe he's not going to have the same opportunities that he had last season with Mitch Trubisky as the starting quarterback in Pittsburgh. I don't see it that way. I think he's actually going to have more opportunities because, let's be honest, Ben Roethlisberger sucked last season. There's a reason he retired. He couldn't throw deep anymore. He couldn't throw beyond 20 yards when it came right down to it with any accuracy. So teams started stacking the box against Pittsburgh. But the thing is, Pittsburgh is so good all around that they were able to keep games close and give TJ Watt a chance to go after quarterbacks. And on top of that, TJ Watt faced double team after double team after double team, but it didn't matter because he's such a physical freak and he's so good at what he does. And I think with Mitch Trubisky, they might actually find themselves in situations that are better than what they had with Ben Roethlisberger, because the one thing Trubisky can do that Ben could not is he can run for first downs. He can tuck the ball and go with it. And he can extend drives that way. And because of that, they can maintain leads for longer. Plus, they've got a strong running game, which will keep opposing defenses on the field getting tired and allow TJ Watt real opportunity to just sit back and relax and get ready for his next series to kill quarterbacks. So I love TJ Watt here. And at his current pricing, right? We're talking about the best at his position. Compare that to the best at their position in other offensive positions and what those players are going for. It's ridiculous. You don't even have to look at the best at their positions. You could look at someone like a Jamar Chase and what he's going for. Now, granted, it's a rookie, so we can throw that out. But if you were to look at someone like I'm trying to think which wide receiver is just going for far too much money. Like a Deontay Johnson, wide receiver from his particular team, Pittsburgh Steelers. His debut moment, it's a rare, but it's like 300 and something. Same thing in Najee Harris. Again, rookie. Maybe you should leave that one out. But there are a number of wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. Trying to think who else. Cortland Sutton. They're just going for too much in comparison to what TJ Watt's going for. Some of those wide receivers I've mentioned, you for the price of one of their moments, you could get 3 TJ Watts. And TJ Watt has a better chance of factoring into a sack challenge or a defensive player challenge than any of those wide receivers I mentioned factoring into a wide receiver receptions challenge or a touchdowns challenge. He just has a better chance of that because of how important he is to his role on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Every wide receiver has to deal with the fact that there's other wide receivers on their team that on certain days can steal the majority of catches or vulture touchdowns from their top wide receiver because of the amount of double teams and coverage that leans their way. You don't have to worry about that with TJ Watt. He gets doubled all the time. It doesn't matter. Get TJ Watts. Get them now before things go crazy. And they will. When the season begins, trust me, TJ Watt's going to shoot through the roof because every time they have a defensive challenge that involves sacks, he's going to be on it. I mean, those are the ones I'm listing. That's my top 5. If you have some other ones that you think maybe I've missed or you are particularly targeting yourselves, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll go after them as well. And if you haven't yet, visit our website, www.prosportspodcasters.com. It's where we have links to our podcast. We also have, of course, links to this YouTube channel. It's where we have our blog. I write a number of articles about NFL All Day, UFC Strike, and of course, we cover every single sport that we cover in our blog. We also do a lot of tips and advice when it comes to both NFT sports and sports gambling. And if you're interested in either, you should become a PSP Insider. You can actually scroll to the bottom of our homepage and sign up to be a PSP Insider. It's absolutely free, but you'll get additional tips and tricks from us in our newsletter and directly emailed to you that we don't share on our YouTube site or we don't share on the blog. That's just for our hardcore fans so that they can benefit right along with us on the NFT marketplace or on whatever sports betting site you frequent. Till next time.